Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 5:30. Welcome to the BISD regular board meeting today, July 19th. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will everybody please rise for a moment of silence? Also, we can keep the following former employees: Daniela Ceballos as a student, Anita Esparza, and Mr. Ricardo Miranda, who passed. Dr. Scoville, could you lead us into the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Under roll call, let the records reflect that the two board members that are missing for today's meeting is Ms. Peña and Mr. Colunga. We now go to item number 5, recommend approving the agenda of the regular board meeting of July 19th with any corrections or deletions. Dr. Montoya?
Madam President, on item 16, on consent, page 220, 221, 222, and 223 will be deleted from the agenda and backup. There is a board policy committee meeting that will be addressing these in detail, so those will be deleted. On item number 42, pages 578, 579, 580 will be deleted from agenda and backup. On item 49, page 627 will be replaced with 627A. Item 50, page 629 will be replaced with pages 629A, 629B, and 629C. And the last item, item 52, page 633 will be deleted from agenda and backup. And that's it.
Thank you, Dr. Montoya. Do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda? Motion by Ms. Longoria. Do I have a second? Second by Dr. Saavedra. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We now go to item number 6, recommend approving the minutes of the regular board meeting of April 19th, 2011 with any corrections.
Madam President,
Go ahead, Doctor.
if there are no objections from the board, I would like to move to approve items 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Motion by Dr. Scoville, second by Mr. Aguilar. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Did we do number 10? We now go to recommend approving the consent agenda. The board has agreed to discuss the following items. All of the items below that are not called out will be approved by consent. My colleagues have agreed to, under conference presentation, to discuss 1 and 4. We go to item number 11, 18, 19, 20, 21, 36, 39, 51. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as recommended by administration.
Motion made by Dr. Scoville. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Saavedra. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Under Superintendent's report, we go to conference presentation of Student Code of Conduct for 2011-2012 school year. Dr. Montoya?
Madam President, members of the board, audience, at this time I'd like to have Ms. Berta Peña, and I believe Ms. Minnie Zamora is here to discuss that particular area.
Thank you, sir. Minerva Zamora will make this presentation.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Montoya. Included in your board packet was a CD with a draft copy of the Student Code of Conduct for the 2011-2012 school year. This handbook is reviewed and revised annually to ensure that parents are informed of their rights and responsibilities. The Student Code of Conduct follows the recommended TASB model. The content applies to all students and programs in the district. Since this is a legislative year, there are significant changes to the Student Code of Conduct. For your convenience, changes are highlighted in blue and yellow. The changes in blue are for clarity, to incorporate recent changes to other policies and to address current BISD practices. This includes the glossary, which was added and referred to in the code. The changes in yellow, specifically from pages 11 on, are to address the changes in the 82nd legislative session. 10 discipline bills are now law and are reflected in the 2011-2012 Student Code of Conduct. The copy submitted to the printer will include any corrections deemed necessary, additional policies, administrative regulations, and/or procedures duly adopted by the board. I will now call attention to some of the changes in our draft copy of the 2011 Student Code of Conduct as per the new statutes. On page 11, under misuse of technology resources in the internet, additional wording was included to the existing regulations. House Bill 1666 clarifies that someone commits an offense if that person poses as someone else via social networking or an internet site, including posting or sending messages. The phrase computer usage was changed to technology resources. Also on page 11, cyberbullying and sexting were adding as conduct violations, as per Senate Bill 407. Also on page 11, when using email or websites, the word engaged was added to comply with new state requirements. House Bill 1666 and Senate Bill 407. On pages 11 and 13, House Bill 2118 and Senate Bill 331 addresses synthetic compounds of controlled substances. Common look-alike drugs known as K2, spice, and bath salts are designated as controlled substances. On page 13, House Bill 966 requires mandatory DAEP placement or optional expulsion for the felony of aggravated robbery that occurs off campus or while not attending a school-sponsored activity. On page 13, House Bill 1907 requires the superintendent or designee to consider information included in the notification of a student's arrest in determining if there is a reasonable belief that the student engaged in a felony offense. It also requires the superintendent or designee to immediately notify district employees with supervisory responsibility over a student when the student has been arrested. This correlates with our current practice. On page 14, Senate Bill 49 requires districts to ensure parents of students placed in a DIEP are informed of the opportunity to complete coursework required for graduation and the available methods for completing the required course at no additional cost to the student. On page 17, House Bill 1224 includes as an expellable offense breach of computer security. If the student accesses a district network or system and the student knowingly alters, damages, or deletes school district property or information or commits a breach of any computer network or computer system. And finally, on page 18, Senate Bill 1416 defines a tire deflation device and adds it to the list of prohibited weapons, requiring mandatory expulsion. For your information, 2 other bills were signed also this past legislative session, 1942 regarding bullying and House Bill 968 regarding serious misbehavior. They are not included in this year's code as they do not go into effect until September 2012. They will be included in the 2012-2013 school code. Any questions?
I have a, I have a question only on that bullying because I know it's been brought up to my attention, Dr. Montoya. On the bullying, I know that before the student gets expelled or sent to where they need to get sent to for the disciplinary, is there an investigation that happens? Because I know that there's been bullying is getting bigger and bigger throughout the nation, and there's a lot of concerns out there. But some students, I guess, they reach to the level that they want to defend themselves, and I mean, who do they report to? What's the process? There's parents that feel that it's not properly handled. How are you going to handle that?
The process that generally we use is, obviously it happens at a campus or around a campus. We ask that the campus administrators begin the process to do their administrative investigation, and since it's a criminal act and now the state has pushed it from that perspective, we will be involving our police officers in a little more detail. So it'll be both sides working together to deal with that.
Alrighty. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? No questions.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Zamora. Thank you. We now go to item number 2, presentation of Brownsville Independent School District financial report for the period ended May 31st, 2011. Dr. Montoya?
Madam President, members of the board, if anyone has any questions on that, we have our CFO interim person here to answer that. Anybody has any questions?
Ms. Longoria, you have a question? Go ahead.
Sorry, I meant to circle the item number 2 instead of number 1 just for the record. Mr. Garcia and Dr. Montoya, I was looking at the Food Service Fund 101, expenditures and other uses. Under personnel employee benefits, that amount to $114,956. Can you explain that?
Mr. Garcia, if you'd go ahead and address that, please.
Yes, sir. Madam President, school board members, Ms. Longoria, on that question that you bring up, if I believe in the previous conversation, we said that a parenthesis on the revenue side was a good thing. That meant that we had additional revenues. A parenthesis on the expenditure side, which we have 2 of them, is not a good thing. That means that under the food service fund, which is 101, we have actually gone over or budgeted object code in the employees benefit by 114,956, and in our supplies, by $1.9 million. So those are areas that we need to correct. Remember that the board approves budgets by function. So in the function, they're okay, but on the object code, they are deficit, and we do need to address that issue.
Was that increase due to additional employees, or is that what the employee benefits are? Or?
On the benefits, what I think it was just an underestimation from administration when you take the number of employees and then you charge them their for example, insurance and TRS and things of this sort. That was just an underestimation that needs to be corrected. So that's what the explanation for that one would be.
And I want to take this opportunity to ask you the status of the fund balance, and since we're, going over the financial report.
Okay.
If you can give us an update as to the balance in the general fund balance and the local fund balance cash basis.
Yes, ma'am. As of May 31st, the local maintenance unreserved fund balance, which is our cash balance, is at $65,355,093, with, of course, 7 cents. So that's where we're at right now as of May 31st.
And we were at 86, right?
When we first started, at the very beginning, we were at 76.
76.
Yes, ma'am. So
Oh,
we're
it's
at-
of June 30th. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We now go to presentation of report for BISD Bond Construction Oversight Committee. Dr. Montoya?
Again, Madam President, members of the board, we have Mr. Guerra and I believe a representative from the Bond Oversight Committee that would like to share some information. Mr. Guerra.
Yes, sir. Dr. Montoya, Madam President, members of the board, I'd like to introduce the chairman of the Bond Oversight Committee, Mr. Butch Barbosa, who will provide the report in our last meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the Board of Trustees, and Mr. Montoya, Dr. Montoya. We had our meeting on July the 7th, and we got reports from maintenance in reference to the Brownsville Early College High School, which it's a project of 6.1 million, and it's about 82% paid for the architect and 16% for the contractor. And we have to realize that there may be some more additional expenses that have occurred between July and now that we're having in the middle of, or at the end of July of the report of some of these percentages. This is when we were reported. The Brownsville Academic Center, it's a 9.1 million, and architect was 80%, contractor at 38%. And these projects hopefully will be completed by January of 2012. The Porter High School facility is 3.4 million. Architect is 83%. The contractor was at 21%. And the Hannah High School Performing Arts is 7.1 million project. The architect 78%, and the contractor at 37%. Later on in your meeting, you're going to be presented with some change orders that were presented to us, and we, have said they were okay. There's really no increase or decrease. They kind of balance off each other, and we recommend that they be approved. We had a report from your financial your CFO, Mr. Garcia. But we have decided to give him additional time to be acquainted with the money and the project that we need to be reported on. So we've given it till our next meeting in September, so that he'll be able to give us a more accurate report and a better report to be able to give it to us. Another thing the committee wanted for me to relate to you was that all of these projects that we're talking about are not part of our bond money that was approved by our voters. And we would ask that it be placed on the agenda so that we can kind of guide us to the situation to say, you want us to continue with these projects that we have, like the Hannah High School, the Brownsville Academic, the early college, and the Porter High School. We're all willing to work, but we just don't have the instructions from you all to continue going and being able to go. And we're hoping to get a guidance from all of you of see how you all felt, if you wanted us to continue going on this, even though it wasn't bond money, because that's the reason we were formed. So that's basically my report. I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything.
So you're saying, Mr. Barbosa, that pretty much the bond committee has already completed their part of why they were established in the first place?
Well, I would say we're probably down to about 2 or 3% of the money, and that's why we're waiting for the report from Mr. Garcia to be able to, because there was going to be some exchange money coming in and bond that was going to be worked out. And then we had the handicap issue that we were working on also. That was part of the bond also, and that's our biggest issue. But these other construction work, they're all willing to continue working, but we really don't have a say-so saying that's what you want us to do. But basically, yes, the answer is yes. The bond money is just about out.
Do you have any questions, Ms. Longoria? You, Mr. Aguilar?
No, I guess the only comment I would say, and I would like to thank the bond committee
for overseeing and making sure that everything, that the taxpayers' monies have, you know, been accounted for. And I think y'all did an exceptional job because you kept us up to date, at least from the time that I've been here to then, keeping us up to date and making sure that everything was constructed in a timely manner. So thank you very much. But I also think that, and I guess this is my question to you, Dr. Montoya, is there any reason why they should continue, or pretty much your facilities people can take care of that?
I think that in general, our facilities people can probably wrap up the rest of the package, but I know that listening to the committee, Dr. Saavedra, several of them were interested in trying to finish up the rest of the projects from the money that was left over. But the answer is yes, we can do that. But they felt like what was the board wishes, if the board as a group would like them to finish up the rest of the projects or not. That was the main question. But yes, our people can finish it up.
So our own administration would need to have the capacity, and as hired in those positions, they should be able to manage to oversee that and just make sure to look after the best interest of the district. Okay.
I think basically like the reason we were going just to oversight to making sure the money was being spent properly.
That's correct.
And that's the reason. It's nothing to do with, you know, checking what the engineer is doing or the contractor is doing. That's administration. You know, we've always said that that's administration's job. But it was the idea of making sure that the money was being spent correctly and not, you know, being sideswiped from one way to another. I mean, that was the reason why the committee was first formed.
Well, what does the board say, you know, does everybody feel about it?
Well, you know, you know, if I may, you know, just reiterating what Mr. Barbosa said, it was never a matter whether administration or employees could do it or not. I mean, they always could. It was just the committee was formed for the sake of transparency. And you know, I'm good either way. If you want to do it, do it. If not, I mean, you've served your purpose. You've done a great job. We're extremely grateful. I mean, I'm good either way.
Okay.
I don't want to give the committee work that, you know, added work, but now if they want to do it, well, I'm okay with that as well. So.
Go ahead, Mr.
And I feel the same way, Mr. Barbosa. If you people want to continue and no mind doing all that work, for me, it's fine and dandy. I mean,
Yeah, it was all positive. I don't think there was a single member that really was not willing to do it, but they were wanting to do it. But since we hadn't really gotten a directive from the board of trustees, they were just wanted to double check to make sure that's what we wanted to do. I mean, administration has always been very cooperative with us, and we've gone sightseeing and seeing the projects, and there's a lot of enthusiasm from the committee people that are there.
Again, I'm not a voting member, but if it would continue to finish up the tail end of the funding source, it would not hurt us at all. We'd have, again, more transparency and monitoring, so it would be a positive thing.
And it would not require action, would it?
No. You just...
Does that guide you enough?
Yeah, it's, you know, like I said, as long as you tell us to keep on going, I mean, we'll do it. We just didn't want to go against anybody's wishes. Or it doesn't have to be an agenda, the item, or the voting thing. It's just the feeling to make sure that we can continue. And you know, it's. I mean, I know that, like for Mr. Garcia, it would be it's going to be a burden for him for a while, and that's the reason we kind of stepped back, because he was right in the middle of the budget procedures, and we weren't pushing for him to come to our meeting and give us a report or everything, because, you know, the priority at that particular time was to make sure we got the budget approved and went forward. But now that we're finished, we want to make sure that we look at all that now.
Okay, Mr. Barbosa, apparently it appears that, you know, the board's wishes is for you to continue, so finish up I guess once you finish up the bond, the last of the previous bond that was pending, which is the end of the project, you can finish it up, and then from here on out, I can tell you that we're going to have a facilities meeting real soon, and the way we're heading, I'm going to tell you, I think administration has agreed already that we're going to have to tighten up our belts. There's not going to be much construction. We're going to have to do some sort of an evaluation of our buildings, and we're going to have to prioritize because just recently there was some buildings that were built, and it's unfortunate that we're having to face the hits. $12 million building's not going to open up as of today. Am I correct, Dr. Montoya?
That's correct.
And, you know, those are things that, you know, we're going to have to face, and the challenges are out there. But I think we all appreciate if you really look at every penny that's out there that does not need to be spent, not to spend, unless it really is necessary. Okay, so I guess you can proceed with the bond oversight.
Okay. Thank you very much
Thank
for your
you.
cooperation.
Thank you, Mr. Barbosa.
We now go to item number 4, notification of allowance contingency fund change orders. Dr. Montoya?
Madam President, members of the board, if there's any questions on these allowance contingency fund orders, we can have those answered. Mr. Guerra is available.
Ms. Longoria, you have a question?
Yes, on page 117, at the bottom of the page, I'm sorry, it's 127. It's a change order for Breeden Elementary, and it's a utility relocation. It says additional expense incurred due to rework cost by PUB locating the water meters in a location different than their initial location. So it's going to cost us $666.
Madam President, members of the board, Ms. Longoria, yes, ma'am, that is correct. It's going to cost us additional monies to move the water meters, and this request is per the city. They have requested that we relocate the water meter from where it presently was, so it's going to cost us to move it.
And before you all determine where the water lines are going to be, you don't check with PUB?
Yes, ma'am, we do. And what happens is that they come out and they look at our plans and they tell us, you know, we show them what we're going to do and they okay that, but then they come back and then they say, and they make changes to those plans. We have seen this happen to us when it comes to marking fire lanes, when it comes to landscaping, all those things that are required by the city. They will review the plans, they tell us to proceed, and then when they come back out and they actually see that the work has been done or they see how things look, they may require some changes to those items. And as a matter of fact, we have one other one where this also occurred.
The water lines also?
Yes, ma'am, and also some of the landscaping. They okayed our plan, and they came out and followed up to see the plan in place. They asked for additional landscaping at Breeden as well.
Does this happen quite often, that PUB will come and change their plans?
I wouldn't say quite often, but it does happen on occasion.
Is there somehow that we can avoid this, Dr. Montoya? Because, you know, every dollar adds up.
I think what we might do, Mr. Guerra, is to get a list of where this has occurred, in what areas, and maybe yourself and myself could meet with some of the PUB directors and try to see that in the future that this type of thing either be minimized or maybe curtailed. So maybe that's the approach we could follow up
because
on.
There's one that totals on 131 that totals 17,990. Again, that's a change on the irrigation and the landscaping.
I think, again, Dr. Saavedra, let us put a list very quickly, and we will meet with some of the PUB directors and try to insist that this type of thing not happen. I mean, it seems to me, as has been pointed out, that they come out and do the initial view and agreement and inspection, and and then they change.
On that irrigation, ma'am, Dr. Saavedra, we requested that because what we have is basically bare ground, you know, from the edges of the building where the landscaping has been placed. From there on back, we have bare ground, and what's going to happen is on windy days, we're going to have a lot of dust and dirt being blown into the building. So what we have done is we have decided to hydro mulch that area, and we have also installed not a sprinkler system, but an irrigation system where we have access to water where we can water those areas. We looked at underground sprinkler systems, but that would run us well over 40,000. So we opted for the hydro mulch and for the water lines where we would be able to maintain the grass in that area and keep all the dust and dirt in place and not flying into the building and all over everybody that's out there.
One more question.
That was not a city request, that was our request that we do that in order to improve the building.
Now that we're on the subject of Breeden Elementary, my next question is, what's going to happen with all the warranties if we're not opening the campus? Because I believe the warranties are only for a year, right? Good enough for a year?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. Once we accept substantial completion, we'll have 12 months from there to, with all the warranties.
So do you have a plan as to how?
We will be proposing, I know this has been discussed at previous board meetings, but we will be putting some suggestions for the board, and we have received input from our administrators and some community people, and I know also from board members, but we're going to put several plans, and allow the board to view them, the pros and cons, and then maybe select one and go from there to try to see if we can open that school earlier than a year from now.
Yeah, and possibly if you could go, once it's completed, to go and, you, Dr. Montoya and Mr. Guerra and Mr. Garza, go and check and ensure that the AC, everything, the wire and everything is up to par.
No, and we do that with some of our people before it's totally accepted. I mean, we go with the contractors, but we also go with our own people in that process. Yes, ma'am.
We have several options that we have discussed for Breeden, and one item that we have discussed is the possibility of using it as a training facility or staff development facility, and that would get us some use, and that would get us in some time to test those faucets and commodes and make sure that everything is working, and keep that working to try and find everything that needs to be fixed before the warranties expire.
Yeah, let's try to utilize it for something.
On another note, I guess we need to minimize some of the change orders. Dr. Montoya, we can't continue to see, obviously it's something that we need to just take it really seriously into consideration. We've already spent enough money, so.
And Madam President, again, we will be working very shortly. We've already begun the process to try to put some ideas together for the board as to what direction they'd like us to take with Breeden. Again, obviously, to utilize it, to ensure that some of the equipment and the stuff that's there is working appropriately and it continues to be under warranty.
I do want to say that I like when I see the decrease on change orders. So if we can get more of those, sir, that would certainly help a lot.
I assure you, we get more requests than what we submit. We scrutinize everything, and Cesar and his staff are real good about questioning everything that's brought to them. And I assure you, this is not a rubber stamp type of thing where they bring something to us. We challenge every one of them.
Thank you.
And in some of these, if we don't eliminate them, we try to reduce the cost as much as possible.
Okay. We move down to, no further questions. We move down to item number 5, presentation on status on DED local classified paid vacation days for 2011-2012. And this was a board member's request, Dr. Montoya?
Madam President, members of the board, again, we've had some questions on that, and we wanted to try to clarify this. I think people need to understand that, again, this was part of the budget process that we wanted to ensure that we protected positions. That was really the goal of administration and the board. And in doing that, sometimes there's a give and take in various areas. And this has been one of those areas that there's been some questions. But at this point, I'd like Mr. Garcia, I know you have, I believe it's Ms. Cuellar and is it Mary Garza that is here to try to answer that? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Garcia.
Madam President, Dr. Montoya, board members, this is an item dealing with DED local. I know that we're going to have a policy committee meeting scheduled for tomorrow where we can go into further detail. I will briefly touch on the numbers and how we got there, and then if you need additional information, I will go into those details. It all starts back with the budget committee meeting that we had on the 3rd of March, where different proposals were presented to the board as potential savings suggestions to address the revenue shortfall that we were going to be experiencing from the state. Those proposals then actually got approved on April 5th, where they became our instructions to work with the proposals for savings presented there to build our budget with. On that proposal, item number 24, on proposal number 2 had a number there of $1.4 million. When we started looking at the $1.4 million in savings, we had to figure out how did we arrive at that number. On the side, on line item number 18, it had a reduction of holidays. But if you reduce holidays, there was the $1.4 million could not be obtained. So therefore, once we started looking into it, it was a combination of holidays and vacation days. When we ran the numbers, we anticipated that eliminating vacation days netted approximately $872,000 in savings, and that is where we took that number and why we decided to reduce vacations at that time. So that's how we come up with that number. That's how we get into vacation days being eliminated for certain groups of employees. One of the questions that was asked by one of the not a member, but a community member that went to my office, and I think that this warrants clarification. We do understand that it affects or individuals that probably need the most help. One of the things that he mentioned was, well, how come you don't consider reducing holidays or vacation days from professional staff? And I just want to make clear that teachers, everybody who's in the hiring schedule, although it appears that they get paid holidays and vacations, we really do not. It's the number of days, you just divide them out by 12 months, and we get payment throughout. So just for the record, certified personnel do not receive paid holidays or vacations. Again, tomorrow's presentation, if it's approved by the board as this being enough on this topic, we'll go into further details. We can go into who is actually affected, what are the numbers on vacations, what are the number of holidays. If we need to revisit those, we'll be more than happy to entertain any suggestions and work with the board and our community to come up with a proposal.
Okay, and Dr. Montoya, I think that if we can stress to the public, we lost money from the state. When I was here, when I first came on board 2008, the district had a very wealthy budget. I mean, there's no two ways about it. We knew where we stood in 2008, 2009, started spending, 2010, more spending. We had state representative in front of us telling us, put your brakes, start thinking before you start, before you spend out there. And he was very honest and told us legislative is going to be making major cuts. And it is my understanding that we still have the following legislative session. It's going to be tougher. And if we don't start now to work together and to understand why certain cuts or why certain changes, then maybe we pull through this time, and let's hope that we, that we can pull for the second time around as in the next legislative session. And I think everybody's trying to do the least damage. I know that the last thing we wanted to do was let go of people. And it is my understanding, as I read different letters out there throughout the state, throughout the nation, everybody was letting go of teachers and personnel in the districts. Houston let go of people, Austin let go of people, San Antonio, you name it. And we stood very strong as a board, and we made it very clear to administration that we were not going to let go of people. And we've been commended by many other people in other districts, you know, and I applaud this administration for having to have come in, and in 2-3 weeks we worked hard. It was long hours. I know some of you people worked until 2-3 o'clock in the morning. We were stressed. We did budget meetings almost 2-3 times a month. I mean, we were very, very strong about our feelings, how we felt about not letting people go. And I know, Dr. Montoya, that you know that those were probably, you know, some items that other districts were letting go of their staff. They didn't bother to look at other options. We worked every angle. We went and looked and did research, and it's unfortunate that some people are still not happy, and you know, I'm sorry, but sometimes we just have to make the best decision, and leaders, you know what, leadership is not only about ability, but it's about responsibility. And we have a responsibility to make sure that 7,900 people can take a paycheck home and can feed their family and make sure that they have a house.
I think we have more than 7,000.
Oh yeah, we just, yeah, our numbers increased.
7,000 is,
So you know, I don't know if anybody has anything else to say, because I know that this has been a concern, and I've spoken to many employees because they're shocked about what's going on. Well, we were working on this budget for the past 6-7 months, and we made it clear. Maybe not everybody was aware of what was going on throughout the months, throughout the weeks, throughout the decision that was being made. But believe me, I think we you know, I can say that I'm very proud to say that we did the least damage, because we could have had at least maybe 200-300 people gone in all categories. You're talking about all categories. You know, and it bothers me, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm very, some of my colleagues might say, there she goes again. We incurred expenses that we did not have in 2008. We did not have in 2009 expenses for buildings that shouldn't have been built. Not at this time. Now we're having to pay practically our payment back for the bonds, because nothing is given to us for free. And yet we're trying to see what ideas we can come up with to utilize that building. It's a beautiful building, but I fought it. I questioned it, and I was lied, because we were told that we were going to have money. And my colleagues who believed in that voted because they were told. Any other comments or regarding this agenda item? Because I know that we've all gotten calls about people losing vacation days, and it bothers me. It does. But we're going to clarify to the public, it is what it is. With all that said, then we move on to standing board agenda items, board calendar. Item number 6 under B.
Madam President, members of the board, tomorrow, Wednesday, July 20th, at 12:30, we'll have the policy committee meeting here in this boardroom. So again, the public is invited to come to that and to share information. And again, this impacts some of what has been discussed so far. At 2:30, we will have the insurance committee meeting in this same room, the board insurance committee meeting, to discuss that area of insurance-related issues. On Thursday, July 21st, the next day, Ad Hoc Special Services Committee will meet in this room to continue some discussions, and that's for July. In August, very quickly, if the board approves an agenda item later on, both board meetings will be moved down 1 week, but that you have that here shortly. On August 11th, there'll be an Ad Hoc Insurance Committee meeting here at 5:30, and then on August 18th, the Ad hoc Special Services Committee will have their meeting. And August 22nd, we go full-blown starting the school year. That's it, man.
Any questions from the boards regarding the calendar? Okay, we now go to public audience. This is a time for citizens, staff, or students to provide their comments to the board. Statements and questions from the audience will not be permitted during other portions of the meeting, so please let us hear from you now if you have comments to present. To have your comments heard tonight, your name and the subject matter of your comments must appear on the sign-in sheet, which is located in the rear of the meeting room. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes to complete to his or her comments with all due courtesy. I will strictly enforce that time limit. If a group of people want to be heard on the same topic, the board asks that they designate a spokesperson to avoid needless repetition. The board has adopted rules to preclude the abuse of open forum by, for example, anyone uselessly repeating the same comment or complaint meeting after meeting. All participants must understand that if your comment, in my judgment, constitutes a complaint against an employee or officer, I will interrupt and ask you to stop and direct you to proceed with the BISD formal grievance procedures, be that DGBA, FNG, or GF local. With those cautions in mind, we will now be glad to hear the general comments. The first one is Fernando Ruiz, in general comments.
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Montoya, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Fernando Ruiz. I'm here today to inform this board and this administration that I have not been to the meetings because I know that everything is in order and it's in good hands. And you're doing a good job, and I want to congratulate all of you and all the staff that pertains to the Brownsville Independent School District. I have, though, made some observations concerning, for example, the item mentioned by Mr. Barbosa. I think I was the only citizen that attended the Oversight Committee meetings. Of course, you know, that committee was formed on my recommendation. And when I attended the meeting, I was not very welcome there. Because, you know, I'm always asking questions. And one of the questions that I asked is that why is it that the model has changed? Throughout the years, in the old days, before you built the school, or 2 or 3 or 4, or a gymnasium or what, you had to create a model of what you wanted. And after the model was created, then you would have the architect and the purchasing agent or whoever take bids to find out who's going to do the job for the least money. And then you get that amount and they say, okay, I need this amount of money. We're going to issue debt. We're going to issue general obligation bonds. Fine. And then you have the figure that you have to use. Apparently, everybody's congratulating Mr. Barbosa. A job well done. Close the books. Hold it. We need to audit that department of the Oversight Committee or look into it, because just one of the projects was $20 million over the budget. $20 million, job well done. You're having problems with the water? I questioned that issue to the Public Utility Board, to the Rancho Viejo Board, to the Southmost Water Authority. I got advice from the Fire Department in San Benito and Harlingen, trying to inform this board that was there at the time, the board that was here, if you had enough water pressure to open that school. But everybody had their own agenda. But the agenda of the PUB is to prepare the infrastructure for the subdivision that's coming behind it, for the investors, developers. We have to pay for that also, the taxpayers. So I looked into all of these things, and all I do is make my recommendation, present it to the board. That's all I can do. But apparently nothing was done correctly. Out of the schools, out of the $135 million, You were supposed to build so many schools, and you were supposed to spend so much on every school. Now, this information is passed to the Attorney General of the state, who authorizes that you issue these bonds. Oh, the reason we issued those bonds is why? Because the state was going to pay for 75% of it. We're paying a quarter in every dollar. That's good business.
Closing comments, Mr. Ruiz?
Pardon me?
Closing comments? Your
I
time's
don't
almost over. We just wrap it up. Your last final comments.
Are we 5 minutes up?
No, sir, we have less because of the number of speakers. Your time's about up, sir. Are you done?
Well, they said 5 minutes. Sir, I don't appreciate your rudeness, okay? You need to respect me.
Yes,
And
sir.
if whenever we have somebody, let the president, you don't have that authorization.
Yes, sir.
Let
Thank
me
you
get
very
through
much.
speaking.
Our next speaker is Tony Esparza, Vacation Days.
Okay, so anyway, it's 135 million that you have to overlook,
Is Mr.
and you have to
is
check
Mr. Tony
into.
Esparza
Sir,
here?
let me get through talking because I have to make my point. This is why we're going to have a forensic audit here in this Brownsville
Chief?
Independent School District.
Chief,
Because
is Mr.
where
Esparza
did the
in?
money go?
Our next
And the
speaker,
question is not
Manuel
only
Gomez,
here.
Miscellaneous.
It's in the state, it's in the federal government, it's everywhere. I'm not creating no disturbance.
Is Manuel Gomez in?
5 minutes, the president said 5 minutes.
Oh, Mr. Esparza is here, okay. All right.
We gotta move. We'll talk about it over there.
Mr. Tony Esparza, Vacation Days.
Say how much time they have.
Thank you. It's 4.5.
4.5 minutes.
4.5 minutes.
Muy buenas tardes, doctor Montoya, Miss García, y miembros del board que nos acompañan. Voy a hablar un poco sobre el tema de las vacaciones. Soy Antonio Esparza, empleado del Departamento de Food Service, Warehouse, y estoy aquí en representación de mis compañeros. Les damos las gracias a ustedes por permitirnos de su valioso tiempo para escuchar nuestras peticiones con relación a las vacaciones que nos han dado cada año como compensación por los años trabajados. En este departamento de Warehouse habemos personas que tenemos de 10 a 25 años de servicio como empleados del BISD. Trabajamos los 12 meses del año, por razón por la cual les pedimos a ustedes tengan en consideración de darnos un tiempo como vacaciones, pero que sean pagadas por el BISD. Se nos informó por medio de nuestros supervisores que van a estar quitando 8 horas de trabajo de nuestro salario por mes, durante 10 meses, equivalentes a 10 días. Esto representa un ingreso al año de $1,000 menos para nuestras familias. Nosotros representamos la clase trabajadora que ganamos menos y trabajamos más. También vamos para 3 años que no recibimos un aumento en nuestro salario. La situación económica es difícil para todos, pero más para nosotros, que como dije antes, somos los que menos ganamos y más trabajamos. Por último, les pedimos con mucho respeto que tomen en consideración todo esto que hemos hablado y no nos quiten de nuestro sueldo el producto de nuestro trabajo para usarlo como vacaciones. Les agradecemos mucho todo lo que puedan hacer en beneficio por nosotros, esperando nos puedan conceder por lo menos una semana, o sea, 5 días de vacaciones. Pero como dije antes, que sea un beneficio pagado por cuenta del BISD. Yo, Antonio Esparza, en nombre de mis compañeros y mío, le damos nuevamente las gracias por oírnos y por su valioso tiempo. Muy amable, gracias.
Manuel Gomez. The next one in line is Manuel Gomez, miscellaneous.
Board President Garcia, Dr. Montoya, board members. My name is Manuel Gomez. I work for Food Service. I've been there for 13 years. I just found out that we've lost paid vacations days. In losing 2 weeks' pay, I'm taking about a 5% pay cut. This is a financial hardship for me and all the other employees at food service. To my knowledge, we are the only ones in the district who suffered a pay cut or who lose days. We had heard you were cutting 5 days, but we did not expect to lose 10 days. Would it be possible for you to give us back those 5 days vacations that we desperately need? And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. We now go to Murray Hernandez, miscellaneous.
Good evening, President Garcia, Mr. Montoya, board members. My name is Mary Hernandez, and I work as a food service manager for 28 years. I too am very concerned about losing the paid vacation days. I have heard that we are going to be given 10 non-working days. My question is, can we take these days during the year, or when can we take them? I only work 187 days. If I have to wait until June or July, it means nothing to me because I'm already out of work. I'm looking at losing about $1,200 a year, and this is going to be very difficult for my family. We need the money, and I know that my peers also feel the same way. We do not make very much. Now that we are taking the 2 weeks off from our salary, it's going to be even more difficult. And now you're going to subtract the money for vacation days that we do not have more than from my paycheck. I do not understand how that can be done if you're taking money away from me and the rest of the classified employees. If for any way you can find it in your hearts to reconsider, I know there would be other areas that you could take these monies from. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We now go to Patrick Hammonds, hardships.
Board President Garcia, Dr. Montoya, members of the board. My name is Patrick Hammonds, and I'm speaking as a representative for the Association of Brownsville Educators. I think the people that preceded me said most of what I had in mind. We are also asking for the board and for administration to possibly reconsider decreasing the vacation days lost from 10 days for people on 244-day contract to 5, and those who are less who receive 8 vacation days cutting it to 4. On item number 52 that you're hearing in closed session, in fact, I guess you already agreed to it as a consent item, you're rehiring retiree hires at full salary and full benefits. If we looked at hiring those people, if not this year, then maybe next year at the same time, as either first-year salaries or bringing in first-year teachers, you'd be saving somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000. As Ms. Price said earlier, we do need to work together. There is this is a critical time. But if you're looking at cutting $872,000 and you can get $600 of that back from the retiree hire positions, then the cut's not that great. You're only looking at about a $200,000 difference out of still of a $550 million budget. So we would also like to make the recommendation for you to consider through policy of reducing the vacation days from 10 to 5 and from 8 to 4. We also want to thank administration who have met with us and discussed this and brought us up to date and explained it. One of the problems that this has caught us by surprise is as we went through the budget process with all of you, it was always, as Mr. Garcia said earlier, referred to as paid holidays. Vacation days never came up anywhere in our conversations, going back from February when we started attending all the way through. And I do know when the budget was approved that one of the things that I asked that night, I believe it was June 30th, was how many days were being cut, and we were told 5. And I know it was a long night, and Many questions have been raised, but that's what we were thinking is when we left, is that 5 days have been cut, not 10. And that's not pointing the finger at anybody, but it's just something that did not come up in discussions. We do also are requesting that if you are going to cut the vacation days, whether it's the full amount now or to the reduced amount that we are requesting, that you would notify all employees via payroll and give them the option if they want to accept this or not. Thank you for your time and have a nice evening.
Yes, also for the record, item number 52 was deleted. We now go to item to George Borrego, which is miscellaneous. So for the record, item number 52 was deleted, sir.
My name is George Borrego, President of the Association of Brownsville Educators. Proud President. Ms. Garcia, Mr. Montoya, Interim Superintendent, and board members and audience. This board has taken a direction in helping our employees. We did not lose what we planned to lose when we were first talking about budget cuts. But this concept of the vacation days and the paid holidays it's something that we didn't understand, and it threw us a curve. And our employees are the ones that are going to suffer. So hopefully we can do something for them. The budget that we worked out was very good. I hope that we were able to maintain that budget for next year and keep all our employees. Let's see what happens in the future. Now, some employees that started working during June and continue working during July are scheduled to be paid at $20 an hour versus the $35. I don't know if this is an issue that has been addressed yet, but if I worked summer school and it went through past July and I was getting paid $35 an hour, I believe I should continue to get paid $35 an hour as a contractual issue. And then next year, should I choose to work for $20 an hour, that's fine. I have accepted that as a contractual issue for next year. But these people did not accept that this year. So hopefully we can address that. And I know this board is trying to save as much money as possible. But guys, the bond issue that we had of $135 million that we're paying a quarter on the dollar was an excellent infusion of funds into the district and buildings that we would have had to build out of our general fund. And our general fund is not going to be as impacted. The ARP money that we got for the buildings at Porter, the early high school, and the auditorium that is looking beautiful at Hannah. We're also paying, I believe, 25 or 26 cents on the dollar. I can be corrected if I'm wrong. These are great deals. We have to make a sacrifice to probably fix the buildings inside in terms of what we have to put in there. But we are getting a bargain, like when you go to Dillard's and it's 30% more off of the already 75% reduced price. So that is a bargain. Let us accept the sacrifice. I assure you that 40 teachers will not be floating at Porter because we got that building. And that Hannah is going to show off their auditorium. And we have a college, we have a high school on a college campus. How many districts in this state can make that claim? Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Also for the record, for the rest of my colleagues, one of the items that he mentioned about $20 to $35, that's already been reviewed. Am I correct, Dr. Montoya?
That's correct. We're reviewing that again here.
So we now go to John Clark, miscellaneous.
George is making me laugh. You guys can't see it on the camera. Okay, thank you. My name is John Clark, President, Brownsville Classroom Teachers Association. Good afternoon, Mrs. Prestes Garcia, members of the board, and Dr. Montoya. Thank you for allowing the public to speak on camera at this public meeting. We do appreciate that. We don't take it for granted. And we're hearing some input from the community and employees this afternoon. I want to speak briefly. The issue of construction was raised. And yes, there were bond monies to help pay for that construction, but as the district knows, we had a presentation about a month ago to help us manage our energy costs from experts in running buildings. We had 2 different firms present, and one of their slides that they presented showed that 25% of building costs are construction and finance, and the full 75% is the ongoing operation of the building. So it is oversimplified to say that these buildings are fully paid for by bonds. They do cost the district a lot, and they are impacting the monies and the job, potentially the job positions that are available for employees in the district. So we appreciate you keeping an eye on that and all that you're trying to do with that. I want to speak very briefly about something else that's a change in the subject in this student discipline. This evening we were presented the student code of conduct, and tomorrow in a policy meeting we'll further discuss student discipline. And I want to call attention to something that is a newspaper or a report that's appeared in the New York Times and the Texas Tribune today, and will probably receive a lot of comment in the educational community. It really doesn't have anything to do with BISD, but I want to get this thought out. This report from the Council of State Governments reported that 1/3 of all students, there's a phone ringing and it's beautiful. Okay, 1/3 of all students are suspended off campus or expelled in the course of their educations. And that number just cannot be right, and yet this report is going out nationwide. The report also seemed to say that disciplinary action against students led them into problems with the law enforcement system. And that is a confusion of cause and effect there, that the schools trying to manage the discipline of their students leads them into further troublesome behavior. And I wanted to bring that up because it's going to come up again as part of in the educational community, and also to bring up this idea that is kind of local, and that is that a discipline referral is a negative. These referrals are tracked statistically by education agencies, and they're not necessarily a negative, is what I'm trying to say. They're part of the tools that we use to manage our classrooms so that we can be more effective when we're trying to educate our students to eliminate those distractions. And we would appreciate it if those things were considered in the complexity of the context that they're occurring. And so thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for allowing the public to speak.
Thank you. That concludes the public audience. We now go to item number 11. Recommend approval to adopt student code of conduct for 2011-2012 school year. I believe one of my colleagues had a couple of questions. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped it. Consent agenda. No, I go to number 11.
Okay,
It was
number
already
11.
consent.
It was already approved. I'm sorry.
Yes. So item number 11, which one of the, I believe, Ms. Longoria, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. My only question was, when you developed this student code of conduct handbook, and as well as the employee handbook, do you compile these policies and procedures and regulations through the Texas Education Code? and policies?
That's correct. Most of this information directly comes from the state, except it's updated every 2 years by the legislative session. So you're correct from that perspective.
Okay, and it's revised annually and to inform the students and the parents and committee about student disciplinary rules, standards, and behavior, discipline procedures, and consequences for misconduct. Okay, so students have to abide by policies and procedures as well as administration.
That's correct. And the key, I think, is that our campus administrators share this information, obviously, with their students and their parents. And that's one that, you know, we probably need to review to make sure it's being done very effectively.
Okay, that was my only question.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve item number 11.
Do I have a
Code of Conduct.
Do I have a second for the Student Code of Conduct 2011-2012 school year?
Second.
Motion by Dr. Saavedra, second by Ms. Longoria. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We now go to item number 18, recommend approval to pay for the Mexican American School Board Members Association membership in the amount not to exceed $1,000 from local maintenance budgeted funds. Ms. Longoria, you had a question on this item?
I didn't circle that one.
No. Who did? Okay, go ahead.
Dr. Montoya, what are the advantages of this membership?
Again, I know that this has been done annually for several years by the boards in this district. I think that the connection there is when you belong to certain organizations, number one, you're going to get information on certain topics that board members may need to understand at the state level as well as the national level, some issues related to certain educational problems or needs, but also some legislative interpretations that they analyze and share with board members. And then another area is that sometimes they hold what I call training sessions in the region that invite board members to attend, as well as some kind of a state or national conference. And again, board members are open to attend to those.
Everything you mentioned, legislator, blah, 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 do you know for a fact that that's happening?
I'll be honest with you, as of this last year, I don't know.
Okay, because I've been a member here for several years, and I other than being a member, I'm not sure what advantages there are, so I just wanted to, is this something that you're recommending?
I would recommend, yes, that you belong to it.
Just for the record, Dr. Montoya, to answer your question, Doctor, is I do get emails from them and explain all these trainings and all these conferences. I don't know why you're not in the email list, but I do get those in my computer.
That's all.
Okay. Do I have a motion for item number 18? Motion by Mr. Aguilar. Do I have a second? Second by Dr. Saavedra. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Nay.
4 yeas, 1 nay. Item number 19, recommend approval to pay PHS Services Agency, Inc., $2,324.65 for the Edward Manzano Junior Middle School to be paid from Capital Project Fund 632. One of my colleagues has a question regarding this item. Ms. Longoria, go ahead.
Yeah, my only question was what type of work are we paying PHI for?
Mr. Guerra.
Ms. Longoria, members of the board, PHI service does a test and balance. They check the air conditioning, make sure that there's sufficient airflow, sufficient cooling, and that we don't have areas that are too hot or too cold. They balance the air conditioning and heating systems for Manzano. This is part of the contract that we entered into them at the beginning of the construction of Manzano, and this is the last payment to them. They have completed the work and they've checked everything out.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have a motion for item number 19?
I make a motion to approve item number 19.
Motion by Dr. Saavedra. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Aguilar. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We now go to item number 20, recommend approval to pay Gomez Mendez Science Inc. $173,746 with 15 cents. Science Laboratory additions to Lopez and Rivera High School and CCJJAP and W. Murphy Thompson Construction Company Inc. in the amount of $663,657.65 for the Science Laboratory Additions 2, Porter and Hannah High Schools for a grand total of $837,403.80 to be paid from the Science Lab Grant Program. Do I have a I have a question from one of my colleagues, Ms. Longoria?
Yes, I lost the page number where I had the question. I think I noticed that you were using local monies to pay some of these invoices.
It would be reflected in your backup there, if we are using local monies. We did use some local monies on some of these projects, and but it is reflected, if you will, and I don't have the.
I think it's on
Page 231.
Yeah,
and its
231.
amount from local 199,333,046.15, and then you have, payment number 1.
Yeah, because you only mentioned that
231, ma'am.
it was being paid out of the Science Lab grant, so I was just questioning that.
If it's coming from the grant money, why are we taking from the local 199?
The 231.
231, ma'am.
The top or
At the bottom, the black numbers. It's the same number, 231 at the.
And I guess you're right, because here we're specifying that to be paid from the grant money, which means that that money should be allocated under a grant function account, versus right here, we're going in there and we're pulling out of 199.
Mr.
Dr.
Guerra.
Montoya.
One of the things that we did, and I'll have to look at it a little bit more closely, but there's 33,000 that's from 199.
Right.
Now, what happened is that the science lab at the JJAP will not be built because it came in over the projected bid, so we're not going to build that. And since we had spent some monies in designing the plan and developing the plan, that has to be paid out of some account, and it was taken out of the 199 to pay for that.
So we paid for plans.
That
How
is
much-
correct.
We paid for the plans?
Yes, ma'am.
So we went out there, we were gonna build a project, and we don't get reimbursed for that? That money is gone.
Well, it really becomes a wash when you look at the other projects. When you look, the JJAP is tied to the one at Lopez and the ones at Rivera. Okay, the ones at Rivera came in below the grant funding. Okay, so we'll be able to maintain that money that will replace the 33,000 in the 199.
Yeah, because that remaining balance is 35,175.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, 35,175.
You see, Dr. Montoya, I think we need to, people say we've gotten the best, 25 cents to the dollar and so forth. It's the principle that this district doesn't have the monies just to be paying for things that we shouldn't be spending on. And again, people are saying we're taking days away, they're losing money. Well, if we didn't have all these payments, because we do have to pay for all these, some of these projects. Not all the projects, because some of the projects are under grant money. But when we start using money that we really don't have, I mean, people keep saying, oh, I got a Mercedes for a 2% interest rate, but the Mercedes doesn't have an engine. I'm still making a payment. I can't drive it around. So why are we going to continue just because it's sometimes, I mean, I can go to Dillard's and the shoes, $100 shoes are $25, but if I don't have it, I don't buy it. We wait for the next time around when the good deal comes and that I have the money. So this spending money on plans, I mean, you say that, for clarification, the design was done,
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
and we paid for it.
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Okay, could you give me an update, Dr. Montoya, on our weekly letter? What was the cost of those plans? Because we can't continue to go out there and pay, and then we might be able to use them, but God knows when. Go ahead, Mr. Aguilar.
If you couldn't afford it, it was not on the bids, what's another option, Mr. Guerra?
What happened in this grant is that this was a grant that included, and this is the way that the grant was written, okay? The grant was written for 11 science labs, okay? Of those 11, one was slated for the JJAEP. And when you take the amount that was awarded, you have to divide the amount by 11 for each one of those science labs. If you don't build the science lab, you have to send the money back. Okay, so what happened is that this particular standalone science lab came in way over what TEA had allocated for construction of that lab. Now, in order for us to receive funding for that, in order for us to receive bids on that, we have to develop the plans. So the plans were developed as part of the 11 plans for Rivera, for Lopez, and for JJAEP. All that was part of one cost, so we have to pay for the plans, okay? When the bids went out, they came in too high. We approached JJAEP to see if they could cover the difference. The difference in what was allocated and what the bid came in was over $300,000. And they said, we don't have $300,000 to build the lab. We said, we don't have $300,000 either. Okay, so basically we were left with a grant of $400,000 that we have to send back because we cannot build that lab for $400,000. We can build 5 labs at $400,000 apiece. We can build 4 of them at $400,000 apiece in one location. But because this was a standalone lab, it costs much more than that. One of the reasons for that is, for example, the restrooms. I have a set of restrooms that has to go into a single standalone lab, but I also have one set of restrooms that can serve 4 or 5 labs at the same time. So that cost is the same. Now, that's not the only reason. The restrooms is not the only thing that accounts for those $300,000. You also have parking lot and other things that accounted for the $300,000. But that's the bottom line on that. And since the plans had to be drawn in order for us to receive bids, we had to pay for the plans to be drawn.
Okay, well, can we just get the expense that we made on that project, please? Just
Madam
so for our knowledge.
President, we will come up with that information for all the board at the next Friday's newsletter.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion for item number 20?
Motion.
Motion by Dr. Saavedra. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Aguilar. All those in favor? Aye. Motion
Doesn't
carries.
have a
We have
choice.
to pay it. We have no choice. Number 21, recommend approval to pay ERO Architects, Inc., $12,536.71 for Hannah High School Performing Arts Instructional Facility, Janak and Associates Architect, LLP, for $4,072.84. Breen Elementary, Gomez Mendez Science, Inc., for $5,766.60. Brownsville Early College High School, K Architect, $5,796. Porter High School Instructional Facility, PSI Engineering, $4,932.50. Hannah High School Performing Arts Building, Rubba Kistner Consultants, Inc., $6,402.80. Brownsville Academic Center, Reich Ogden Figueroa Alex, Inc., $32,760. Brownsville Academy Center, D. Wilson Construction, $640,092.90. Porter High School Instructional Facility in Breton Elementary, Spa Glass Contractors, $399,551. Brownsville Early College High School and Texas Descon LP, $1,258,753. Brownsville Early College High School and Brownsville Academic Center for a grand total of $2,376,6435 to be paid from Capital Project Fund 190. I have a question from one of my colleagues. Item number 21.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Montoya and Mr. Guerra, on page 260, the agenda item. Letter B, additional services, the recite fee. What is that? For $83,650.
Page 260 you mentioned?
Yeah, on your agenda page at the bottom.
Expense page, the invoice.
The bottom.
It's a broken down invoice.
Got schematic
Schematic.
phase, design, develop, and then
Construction
part
docs.
B is additional services.
Okay.
There was basic services, part A, and then part
Part
B
B.
is additional
Additional
services. That's what she's questioned.
The
Right in the
recite
middle.
fee.
The recite, right in the middle,
It's right
83,650.
in the middle, item in the middle, additional services.
It's invoice number 26.
Okay. This is not payment on this side of, I don't believe. This is something that was paid previously. If you will recall, Daniel Breeden had been designed to be built somewhere by the country club, if I recall correctly. When we changed the site to its present location, they had to go in and plot it out on the property that was available. So that's a recite fee. In other words, taking this design from where we had originally designed it and then setting it up where we're setting it up now.
So they charged us 83,652.
Because they had to draw all the property lines and place a school on there.
Oh my God.
Been an architect.
And now the employees are paying the price for this.
That's why they don't get their working days, poor guys. Vacation days.
So, for the public to know, we had to pay $83,650 for the recite plan.
Because they moved.
Because we decided not to build in one place
Because you
to the other.
decided not to build it at the site that it was designed for, you changed the site on it, so it's a recite fee.
What was the reason to change the site?
They bought land
That-
somewhere else.
That was,
That's what it is.
Well, it was to my knowledge that the Breeden Elementary, that acreage was supposed to be a middle school to help alleviate the overcrowdedness at Vela Middle School.
That's right.
And then we had it, to my knowledge,
that.
I don't know, correct me if some of you that have been here longer than I have, the Brownsville Country Club, I think they felt that it was too congested because they didn't have an exit to be able to alleviate all that heavy traffic with the buses, although that would have been a school that was supposed to be for walking distance
No, the
for
reason
the
that
students there.
the Brownsville Country Club, because when they started looking at the attendance, there was no attendance enough to build that school there, ma'am.
Well, we still don't have the
So-
attendance
No, no,
at
but what I'm
Breeden, right?
saying, that's the reason.
That's the reason.
And so what your statement that you made about Breeden being there is, that is
Vela Middle
correct.
School.
That is
But-
correct.
I mean,
That
that's
is
what
information,
my
but
knowledge.
not the Brownsville Country Club. There was not enough, the survey was done, and they said there's not enough, so they decided to build the school over there to relieve all that population in that area.
Go ahead.
Do we have an administrator in the room that may answer these
answer
questions
the questions.
in more detail? Or?
Mr. Garza.
Oh, Mr. Garza, Mr. Garza.
If I recall, the reason for changing the site from over there was what Mr. Aguilar is referring to. The demographics of that neighborhood was changing. The children are getting older and more into middle school and high school age, and we were losing the elementary population. And that's the reasoning behind changing the site. And the property where Breeden presently sits, is my understanding that the district already owned that property, and that's why it was decided that would be a good location for it.
Yes, and let me tell you, I'm going to correct you with that because Brownsville Country Club, we've been getting a lot of people with little babies, so it's like a cycle. So eventually, it's going to bounce. You know, you're gonna need it on the other side because Paredes is overcrowded, and then you get to Hudson over here, and Paredes, you're feeding a lot of your April Gardens, which is where your subdivision is, versus the Brownsville Country Club. So I see the
A lot of kids there. I see them all the time.
well, you do have
But-
April Gardens and
But,
Chaparral.
It's a cycle.
Miss Dr.
and that's what I'm
Montoya,
saying.
I mean, do we not have prognostic charts that tell us exactly what's going on?
It's my understanding, yeah, we do. We have a person, we have two people from two departments that had created that information. And it's my understanding that it was shared with the board. Of course, I was not in this position at the time, obviously, but I believe that information was created, it was shared, and then as a group, the decision was made.
So were those projections erroneous?
At that time, it goes with basically what Mr. Aguilar has said. It was given from that perspective.
So did we as a board make a legitimate mistake, a foolish mistake, or did we go by the information that we had at the time?
I don't think it was a foolish mistake at all. It was, you reacted to the data at the time that was available.
We were data-driven at the time,
That
correct?
time,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Yeah, that information, excuse me, ma'am, Dr. Scoville, that information was given to all of us, including.
yeah.
It's just, we just depend on the information
I
that was
remember
given.
voting according to the information that we had, yeah.
But right now you have people going in there.
But you know, Ms. Garcia, you're correct. The population moves. And
it's-
eventually, this is why it's good to keep that land, because eventually we probably need another school
In that area.
in that area, because that's the way it is. I mean, and then we're going to have some school that we're going to lose population, whether it's in the south area or the northeast or west. It happens. It's just a cycle. We don't know how many years from now, but it will happen.
I guess the point that I'm trying to prove is that we went by the information that we had at the time.
Yes.
We
that
didn't
was
go
correct.
by any other
Time.
because we wanted to or because
That's
we could.
correct,
Yeah.
and that was shared with all of you, yes.
Any more questions? Guess your fee was
Bad enough.
answered.
That's bad enough.
Okay, well, now do I have a motion from my colleagues to approve that item? Motion by Mr. Aguilar. Do I have a second? Second by Dr. Saavedra. All those in favor? Aye, motion carries. We now go to item number 36, recommend approval of RFP 11-134 for Medicaid Billing and Consultant Services District-wide to Houston Independent School District, Houston, Texas for 2011-2012 school year. Annual proposal. One of my colleagues has a question, and that would be Ms. Longoria.
It was me. I was noticing on the companies, different companies that submitted bids. I'm just wondering why we didn't go with the one here locally, McAllen, or maybe even the one out of Austin. Can I mention the name?
Probably better not to
No?
mention.
Okay, McAllen or Austin, one of those two. McAllen especially since it's closer to us.
I think, Ms. Pena, if you could help us answer that. I know that the Houston group from Houston, I said it, is the one that has worked, that historically has worked with numerous districts all over the state. So I know that they have a reputation for doing that.
You just said Houston, the city.
Yeah, the city.
area,
That's right. I
Houston
said
area.
the area. So, you know, they have worked historically with various entities and have a lot of background from there. But, Ms. Penny, you have some more specific information there, so.
Thank you, Dr. Montoya, Mrs. Cathy Presas Garcia, and members of the board. We did go with the Houston group for our SHARS billing. We have met with them. We met with them just recently, 2 weeks ago, with the department's administration, as well as with some of our teaching staff. We have seemed to come to an agreement on the form of billing that we will be using, our processes. We're still working at it, but the department will give 150% in making sure that we come to an agreement so that our teachers can fill out the billing forms, and that we have 100% of the revenue that is due to us and for our children and for our department. We will work diligently with the teachers. This company did come down and showed and demonstrated the process and is willing to come down and take a more aggressive and supportive role this coming school year. In the meantime, I think we have a year to look at other entities, other companies, so that we can make a more informed, a more personal decision on what's right for our department here in BISD.
And I think, members of the board, the goal has been to increase the revenue through the SHARS process, because we feel we can get more. And again, with due respect to Mr. Aguilar, the last discussion at one of the previous board meetings was, how can we do the forms and the filling in better? Mm-hmm. So we have met with several entities in the district and Mr. Hamas and some other groups to come up with a system that we hope will increase the amounts, and we believe that it will for this coming year to help us.
I just wanted to add, Dr. Montoya, we have gone from $2 million to $5 million. And can you imagine if 100% of our teaching staff and our department is focused on this, hopefully, you know, we can be self-sustained in our department with the revenues that we can make.
I would also like to add, Dr. Montoya, the reason I questioned is because at the last meeting, Mr. Hammers did raise concern that they were not really satisfied with the training or the information they were getting from them. And I've noticed that we've been with this company since 2002. And also, when we do get these monies, these Medicaid reimbursements, I would like to see that these monies go back into the special ed account, into the instructional needs of the children. Because these are for direct services to our children. That's where we need them the most. You know, I know last time you, or not you, but the prior administration made a budget amendment to deposit $85,000 into the Special Olympics. But I feel these monies are needed more in the classroom, the instructional setting.
And again, I think your point's well taken, Mrs. Longoria, that we have visited with the company and asked that the training component be improved so that our people can do it better. So that hopefully will be addressed. But we are cognizant of the fact that we need to recover the money and needs to go back to special services because that's where it's being dealt with to begin with.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You know, I bet that if these companies were to really do their job, we'd pay them after the fact, that they have proven themselves that they've done the job. But we tend to give them, you know, we pay them and we don't get our services. We really don't get the best or as much as we can out of them. And I think, Ms. Peña, Dr. Montoya, your administration said that we went from 2 million to 5, but I thought we went high number, low number. So we really don't have their performance there. So we need to make it clear that we're going to go out.
That's correct.
And we're right now, the district is everybody's facing financial crisis, and we're going to hire the best people that are going to perform and do the job for us because we need the revenue. Very simple. Nothing personal against any company. But if they can't cut it for us and we're not to the expectation where we need to be, then we got to go out there and do what we got to do. Very simple.
That's correct.
Go ahead, Mr. Aguilar.
Well, in fairness of everyone, I think it's a two-way
street. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I like what Ms. Berta Peña is talking about, that they will be 100% improvement, and also they have come and planned for more aggressive training. You know, the training is there, and sometimes the administration needs to go out there and say, this is training available for us. We need to go after it. We need to plan for it. Just don't leave it up to a company to say, hey, you didn't come. But we need to be proactive. And that, I'm talking about administration, to say, I need this provided for us, let's go after it and plan for it throughout the year. So let's not just say it's the company's fault, but also let's say administration, we also need to be proactive.
Yes, you're right, Mr. Aguilar. We need to take responsibility as well, but we need to, I think we all need to be clear to them that we're going to do our part and they need to do their part as well. So do I have a motion for this item?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Aguilar. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Saavedra. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We now go to item number 39, discuss consideration possible action to allow administration to negotiate a fee and the hiring of RFQ number 12-022 for forensic audit services from one and or two of the firms meeting the qualifications and needs of the Brownsville Independent School District for fiscal year 2011-2012 with an option to renew for 1 year. And I believe one of my colleagues had a question on this one. Go ahead,
Escobedo.
Dr. Escobedo.
Yes, thank you. You know, I've been in and out of town a few times. We haven't hired anything as far as forensic audit. We haven't approved any items, right?
No,
Okay.
sir.
I don't have a problem with the forensic audit. I have a few concerns the way this item is written. It's to negotiate a fee and hire not one but maybe two That's to me a lot of leadways. Dr. Montoya, why one or two?
I think it's up to the board. It just left the door open if you felt that one, I mean, you wanted to have two, but the reality is that you can decide one. Obviously there's three that were there, so, but you can decide on one.
I have no problem with one, but two, I do have concerns. We can hire one good one or two mediocre ones, but okay. Now is this acceptable in the same agenda item, negotiate a fee and hire, or would that usually require two items, one to negotiate a fee and then one to hire?
I believe the issue will be obviously to select which group you want of the three. I think that's item one that has to be decided. Right. The negotiating of the fee, it will tie to what direction the board would like this audit to go. I mean, audits can have numerous components, or you can narrow it down, and I think that's the key there. And once you have the company that you select has that information, obviously then they can negotiate the fee with the board as to, this is the area and this is how much it'll cost, or, the various sides of it.
Sure, I understand that, but I feel that if we select a company and then talk about job description and fee, because they've been selected, they may be a little bit pricey as compared to if they're still in the running with another competitor, then they'll obviously want to keep their fees as minimal as possible. My preference would have been to have had a job description or a scope of work, presented it to them, and then from there work on a price and then select the one that's most feasible, depending on their qualifications and their fees. If we select one and then ask them how much they'll charge us to do this, well then obviously they've been selected, at least at the time. We could always say, thank you, but no.
Dr. Escobedo, what we would like is to also, in this process, that as a board, you give us more specific direction, as to what areas in the audit you would like to go. Now, one of the things that we've looked at administratively, and I'll go ahead and share that at this point, is that areas such as insurance have been discussed numerous times, and in terms of issues. Also, the bond construction area has come up numerous times, and the E-rate has come up as issues. And so just from our perspective, and again, we're just offering it as an idea. It is obviously up to the board as a group to say, we would like to narrow it down to maybe these three areas, or add more, or detract from them, or whatever. But that was kind of what we thought.
Well, those are three big ones. I mean, that will keep anybody busy for a long time. I don't know just how effective it'll be. It's really easy to cover tracks in these areas, but it's worth looking into. I mean, I'm open for that.
Okay. May we ask legal, what do you think as far as would we be binding to, if we give the way the agenda item is written, as Dr. Escobedo mentioned, that we would decide on one of the companies and then go out for the bids?
Yes, I mean, if the board would prefer to have one company, and that would probably be preferable if there's one company. If there's an issue, you may come back. You may want to handle this the way that the Professional Services Procurement Act is dealt with, and that may be what was intended in the way the agenda item was written, in that you'd select the firm that you think was the most capable, and then you'd work on a scope and also the price there. If that was unsatisfactory for the reasons Dr. Escobedo is saying, then you could end negotiations and go to the second one. But I think to move forward with the way you want, you'd want to work something along that fashion.
Right. I'm sorry, I was distracted. But basically, I missed, do you recommend we select one now? Is that what you recommended? Or?
Well, what I'm recommending is I think what this really is a direction to negotiate to get the scope that's needed at the minimum price, and you really select a firm to negotiate with and work with that. If for some reason there's a feeling that the firm won't provide the scope or the prices are too high, then you could go on to the next firm.
Okay. Are we ready to select one tonight?
Yeah. Who else did y'all get a chance to?
Oh, I had the same concern as Dr. Escobedo. Yeah, remember your name. Dr. Montoya, I think we gave you directions. I think we gave you specifics. In fact, when I went out for bids, everything was written for you. And I think it was the responsibility of administration to come out with one. Why treat this item any differently than any items when we go out for bids? I've never seen a a bid saying one or two architects or one or two construction companies so we can negotiate a bid. Never in my 8 years as a board or as an educator for that matter have I ever seen this. So why do you treat it differently?
No, and again, I think we tried to furnish information as best as we could furnish at various requests over the last couple of weeks. But again, you're right. What we're trying to say, in our opinion, is those three areas seem to be the areas that have been brought up numerous times at board meetings as issues that needed looking into, you know, maybe to see what's happening or not happening. And so that's why we said those three would be the ones.
Well, when we select someone, of course, the recommendation is by the administration. And when we sit down with them, don't we almost tell them this is what we're looking for? This is what we need?
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
I mean, we don't hire one and then say, and we always tell them what we're looking for. I don't know what we're looking for, but at least somebody knows what we're looking for. And I think you mentioned 3 possible items because that has been the concern the last 8 months, those 3, right? So at least you have some guidelines. Whether we like it or not, we're going to look at it. You see, but the way it's written, at least.
Well,
If I could add, I know that, and I've done some of the research on the forensic audit and what other districts have done. And I think in all fairness to the way it might have been written is depending on the direction that the board wanted to take. If you wanted the audit done in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, it might have been the amount of days that were taken. So sometimes maybe one company could handle one aspect of the audit, then another company would handle another aspect. But that was entirely up to the decision of the boards that I've seen done in other districts or read about in other districts that have conducted forensic audits. Because it is a very intensive process. And so if we were in a time crunch and we needed the information like, you know, ASAP, maybe one company couldn't handle it, so you needed to go with 2. So I'm sure that maybe that's, I mean, I don't know if that's the direction that was being proposed, but I think that one, and the guide that we've already been given, I think pretty much one could probably handle that.
Various components.
I don't think we're in a particular timeline. I mean, we don't want to take forever, but we're not in a hurry. But I can, you know, I guess it does make some sense that one firm may have expertise in one area more than another. And that being the case, I mean, that makes sense why we would potentially use 2 firms. Maybe one's more of an expert in one area and the other one in the another. So I guess that makes a little sense.
You know, I have a concern because the E-rate has been I'm sorry, were you done? I'm so sorry.
I am now.
No. Thank you, I'm sorry, I apologize. You know, I know that the E-rate has been an issue, and I know that this would be like a real an investment. I see it as an investment because the E-rate, I know that there's like a certain time frame, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe your administration can answer. Is it like that one does have a deadline? Because if we want to try to recoup or recover some of that, I think that one is the little bit more that I have a concern. Yes, that's the pressing one because, you know, I think that's the one that I think even one of my colleagues had shared a concern when we brought it up, and we had concerns of certain things when there was an audit also as well, that there was certain information that could not be found. If I'm not mistaken, there was already an internal audit investigation. So with all that said, I don't know if anybody else has any other questions, but maybe we can go ahead, Doctor.
I guess I'm okay ultimately with the way the item is written. I guess I'm nervous because I have no idea what their fees are going to be like. I don't know if it's going to be this, or this. And that makes me a little nervous, but I guess ultimately we have the option of saying no.
Absolutely, of changing and negotiating. So there's 2 issues. You negotiate up front and you can turn it down in the end.
Can we ask administration, you more or less, there's a budget that has administration already said that you're going to be okay with without
we have not set a specific budget, but you know, depending again, you know, we would guide you to tell you in our opinion that's either too high or we're still within a reasonable
amount. Yeah, I think if my colleagues are okay, I think that yes, we're not going to pay $500,000. You know, we're not going to, you know, we're going to make it clear that we're not going to spend, you know, it's an investment that we're going to we're looking into. We want to invest in this because I firmly believe that there's something that we can recoup from that. And, but with the administration, I know that you're gonna have in mind a good figure that we're not gonna go overboard. Also, I guess that they need to know that it's, they need to have their work done, cut within the next 4, 5, 6 months, maybe, and wrap it up and get it out of the way. I really think that 3 months, 4 months max, I think if they know their work, they know how to do their job, they should come in and go out, So, with all that said, I guess with all of us here, we discussed the items that have been a concern. It's been the bond, it's been the E-rate, and it's been the insurance. And the reason being that is where most of our money is spent, the millions and millions of dollars that we need to answer to the public, so.
So do we make a selection now?
So,
Who we're gonna go with? A recommendation?
recommendation?
The wishes of the board, you have
Okay.
3 and information. So
You studied them more in depth than I did, so
Yes.
I'm willing to listen to you
And
here.
as your audit chair, I would like to recommend, what is the name of the company? Mr. Daffenbaugh. He was the highest ranked, and I saw his references. He was very highly recommended. And he also has expertise in school district, school finance, and so I think he's the best qualified for now.
Are you gonna go for the second one as well, or no?
The second one, in
No?
case that
Okay. All right, that's fine.
So if if he's over budgeted, then
Yeah, we probably should. I mean,
I
Yeah,
think that
okay.
the direction needs to be, Dr. Montoya, we cannot, I'm sure that administration has to, make sure that we're not gonna go over a certain budget.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I'm sure that 400,000 is, I don't know where we stand or what's in our budget, so, but you
up
you
with,
will come up with a number, you get back with your staff and.
the understanding I'm getting right now at this meeting, again, that we're looking at those 3 areas, and that no more than, we hope, 4 months.
Yes.
So as long as
No
we
more
have
than
that
4
as a
months
guide, and
to
then we
wrap it up.
build the discussions, negotiations from that angle.
Yes, so you will take.
Well, if you
your
need also
administration-
a second.
Oh, the second one, I would recommend, I think it was the Comtech Group. They were the second
of
highest
Beaumont?
ranking.
And that's only if we need them. If not, we
Oh,
stick with the
right,
first one.
only if we need them.
Okay, so the timing is gonna be 4 months, should we also,
Yes.
within a 4 months timing also, can they do their job within,
Guidance.
that would be your guidance to get them and negotiate? Mm-hmm. Okay, so would 4 months sound reasonable to all of us?
Let me understand. In other words, what you're doing, your motion is to select 2, let the administration come to the board with a recommendation.
No.
Once they negotiate.
Once they
the-
negotiate.
Yeah, that's what I
Fee
mean.
mainly.
Yeah, they'll come with the figures.
They'll have to come and let us know that that they have been hired under a certain.
To allow administration to.
Well, that's what I'm asking,
this
that
is-
after all these negotiating goes on, the administration will come back to the board and recommend 1.
No, I think this is to hire right now.
Hire them.
To hire and allow administration to negotiate a fee. So,
So she's recommending one company to go and I guess hire
Start-
that company with the intent that if the fees are met to our understanding, then that's the company that would conduct the
So
audit.
more appropriately would be to negotiate a fee, then hire, not hire, then negotiate a fee, right?
Right,
right.
yes.
Negotiate a fee and hire.
And then hire.
Yeah, but I mean, this agenda item is to hire at the same time,
Negotiate,
negotiate and hire.
Yes.
If we feel that they are reasonable,
Reasonable
because we
amount.
still have the option to
Right,
say no.
then we'll go with a second.
And I 4 months sounds good to me, but not being from that specific industry, I don't know if that's a lot or not enough. But I guess it's a starting, it's a reference point.
Yeah,
It's a
90
reference
days.
point.
90
90 days, yeah.
90 to 120 days. 90 to 120 days, I think it's reasonable. If their background says that they're what they are, they should be able to get it going. Some of them have been doing that for years. That's been their livelihood.
Well, then do your.
Okay.
So your motion, Ms. Longoria?
So I motion to allow administration to negotiate a fee and hire the forensic audit services, Mr. Daffenbaugh. And in the event that the fees are not reasonable, we could allow administration to negotiate a fee and hire Comtech Group.
Very good. Motion made by Ms. Longoria. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Saavedra. All those in favor? Aye.
I'm against, just for the record, that I don't think this is an appropriate motion. I like the audit. I like the first selection, except they have two on a board. I'm sorry, I just can't buy it. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. But for clarification, it's not going to be that we have two on board.
Excuse me, Ms. Garcia, I mean, Mr. Michelle, are we out of order by doing this, voting it this way, or?
I don't think so. I think what your motion was is it's the authority to move forward with the negotiation and hiring, and then if the fees were unreasonable, you would go to selection number two.
And with due respect to Mr. Aguilar, who did bring up a good point, we would have to bring that to the board if it appears too high, and then you would give us direction. We're not going to accept that. We need to go to that other second company.
Second one. Okay, so we're not hiring two. We're hiring one. In the event that the expense is not to what administration is expecting and negotiating, then we go to second one.
With those topics that we talked
With the
about,
topics that
and
have
within a
discussed.
4-month period.
Within a 4 months period, grace period. Yes, sir. So motion carries 4-1. We now go to personnel matters. It is 7:25 now. We'll go to executive session.
Thank you.
It is now 7:35. The board has reconvened from executive session.
Can I do them all at once?
Well, 51 first.
Okay. I make a motion to approve item number 51.
Second.
Motion made by Dr. Saavedra, second by Mr. Aguilar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Nay.
4-1. We now go to consultation with attorney regarding pending and threatening litigation matters.
I would request a motion seeking to approve all litigation matters on the terms discussed in closed session.
Okay.
Just need a so moved.
Okay,
and-
so do I
and a
have-
second.
I make a motion. If I need to
Motion by
make- I
Dr.
so
Saavedra.
moved. I so moved.
And second by?
I moved.
Second by Mr. Aguilar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Yes. We now go to announcements.
I guess return.
Again, Madam President, members of the board, I think I shared the calendar with you. Tomorrow's the 2 committee meetings, and obviously they're open to the public, and one of them is policy, which will deal with various areas. So that's really all to announce at this point.
Policy's at noon.
That's correct.
And insurance is at 2:30.
It's at 2:30, and they're
2:30.
both in here. That's correct.
So people are welcome to come and.
And that's it.
Okay, there's backup for tomorrow's meeting.
Okay, and people are welcome to attend this, the policy meeting at 12 and the insurance meeting at
12:30.
12:30, I'm sorry.
And the other one at 2:30.
And the other one at the 2:30 for insurance.
That's correct.
But also, I,
Have lunch for you.
Talking to the audience.
Okay.
also under announcements, I'd like to check with my colleagues that are here today. I know that the month of August is a pretty busy month, and some people are still trying to take their vacation. So I'd like for at least those of us who are here to look at the dates and see if that will work for us to have a meeting, not the first Tuesday, but until.
It was approved. It was approved.
Okay, so everything was okay.
Yeah, it was approved.
Okay, now, well, the announcements is that
That's
The
it.
next board
It'll be, the next board meeting will be August
August
9th,
9th.
as
Look,
per approval of the,
Make it
my
simple for
colleagues.
you. I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you. I have a second. Second by Ms. Longoria. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Meeting is now adjourned. Thank you so very much.